What's poppin' people, SSJAipom here with episode 37 of the skill analysis series. We're checking out DLC Pack 4 skills today, and we're trying to find ways to link into or use the skills and give any relevant information in terms of cancels or practical uses, so you know how to use the skills on your custom created characters or on the characters that have them. Of course, if we miss anything or you have any practical tips, hook us up in the comment section below. Our lovely thick assistant is Poton, the female Saiyan, and her stats aren't padded for damage at all. As a female Saiyan, she has a minor increase to Ki Blast super damage, so keep that in mind for the damage values you do see. We'll be checking out the paid DLC skills, Blades of Judgment, Holy Wrath, Lightning of Absolution, Divinity Unleashed, and Divine Wrath, Purification. We'll call it Purification for short, but it's not going to be the Majin Trent. You know what we're talking about. We went over the free DLC skills a day or two ago, so if you're looking for those, they won't be here. So, with that being said, let's go! Blades of Judgment is a Ki Blast super that fires several red daggers at your opponent. If the daggers miss, they get stuck in the scenery for a few seconds before detonating. If a dagger hits the opponent, they get knocked limp for a couple of seconds, and they are unable to escape by mashing their buttons. This skill hits relatively lightly, but the advanced mechanic lets you hold the button down to keep on firing daggers. This skill is pretty easy to combo into after heavy knockdowns, and easiest, I should say, no F in there, after knockback combos. It's a pretty neat extension and will even autocorrect and aim at your target if they move around or get knocked away. It's actually pretty neat in that respect because in latency you don't really get to account for how your opponent's going to get knocked away from you when you use your combos or cinematics like that, so that's always pretty nice. If you want to use it to block against incoming projectiles, it can do that, or on the opposite side, if you toss a projectile that shreds, it can actually hold the blast back from hitting you. It's not really practical to do that, but hey, if you want to record something cool like a neat little, I don't know, visual showcase or something of Xenoverse 2 or something like that, you got something there, I guess, for style. It's not practical, again, but if you wanted to hit them out of the sky, you could do that. It doesn't have, like, super tracking or, like, the keep away ability as strong as something like, say, Sudden Storm, but it's pretty good nonetheless. If you use it after a heavy knockdown, you can get the heavy scenery explosion effects to kind of happen in your combo. I wouldn't really recommend it too much for the damage since it's, like, a bit negligible, but if you wanted something stylish, why not? I like the way the move looks visually. I think the ring popping up behind your character looks kind of nice, and it's a pretty cool move. I like the bonus effect of like the scenery blowing up in the background when the daggers do hit it. So hey, it gets a it gets an out of 10 from me. I don't know if you're sorry if you're wearing headphones. I just had to let you know. Holy Wrath is another projectile skill that lets you charge it up to 3 stages before throwing it at your target. The first stage of the skill lets you fire it immediately before it shreds opponents. You'll have to hold the button down to reach the other stages. While charging it up, you can drift around the map and stay locked onto your enemy. The second and third stage of the skill will make a confirming noise and also show a little visual, kind of flaring up around the blast over your fingers to let you know that the skill has leveled up. The skill is fairly loose tracking and is probably worth throwing after a heavy knockdown for the safest use, but offline it seems like you can throw it after a knockback attack, which is the heavy attack plus the Ki Blast button, not like a knockback in your combo, unless the combo has an impulse that is strong enough for you to do that. So if you wanted to find a combo with a strong enough impulse for that, maybe try to find combos that you can combo into, like, say, Super Kamehameha or something like that, because if that's the case, then you most likely can throw something like this, which probably has a little less startup time than, like, you know, a whole ultimate attack like that. So keep that in mind. You can use a knockback attack heavy plus Ki Blast button, offline at least, to go into the super without much issues. In team battles, it's probably the most safe since you can kind of just charge off in the background and throw it at enemies for fairly decent damage. I think it's pretty cool for like PvE grinding and all that. When we were trying to get these supers and the ultimates yesterday to get this video done, that's what I was doing. I was just, you know, just charging up in the background, just hold that, 4,000 damage. Amazing. I think the third stage of it actually did do over like 4,000 damage on Poton with no points spent on Ki Blast supers, which is actually really neat. It's crazy how Poton has like no investment, but when I have to grind and get, like, say, equipment or anything on a character, like, I go straight to her just because, you know, the flexibility of moves like this where you can do that damage in like a control situation for like 1 bar is like, sounds nice. Holy Wrath can probably be used to block incoming projectiles if you throw it fast enough, but then again, it wouldn't be practical to use a skill since you can just dodge anything in the game. So if you're thinking of like blocking stuff with it, unless you're like gonna record like a cool video or concept or something like that, I wouldn't recommend just wasting your resources like that to block a move in midair. You know, like it's a little counterintuitive, guys. But I do like the way that the skill behaves after a heavy knockdown. I would recommend charging it for like a second or two, because if you just throw it after you knock your opponent down, you won't get the most out of the damage, or it'll behave weirdly, I'll say like that. So you might want to just let your opponent kind of rest on the floor for a split second while you charge it up over your head and then throw it down after a heavy knockdown combo, and it does a pretty nice hit, and it seems to be consistent for me in that situation, and it does a nice chunk of damage. So remember, heavy knockdown situations are situational. You have to be close enough to the floor to get the heavy knockdown, so make sure that you're keeping account of where you are on the map. That's one of the most important things when it comes to building combos like that in a game like this, where things aren't always consistent. So there's that. The skill also kind of auto-corrects after certain warp combo strings, and you can throw it at your enemy. You'll see it in the video. Using it this way is inconsistent, though. Again, consistency is which one you like look for with moves like this. So I advise you guys to be a little bit careful with stuff like that. You got it, Pop. You got it. Lightning of Absolution is a location marking super, much like Flash Strike or Death Psycho Bomb. After tagging where the opponent is, the attack will set off 2 bolts of lightning. There are a few minor details to take into account. For starters, the skill costs 2 bars of ki, and much like Flash Strike or Death Cycle Bomb, if you trigger the skill after a knockback, it'll follow and land almost 100% of the time. When it's used like this, it's almost a definite 2000 damage extension off any knockback combos on Poton, so I can imagine with investment this thing becomes a scary 2-piece that's pretty much like another combo in itself. The most damage I've been able to squeeze out of it, though, comes after warp combos. If your opponent gets launched towards the pulse of lightning that shoots out in front of you, and you'll see it visually over your character's head, it's like a stream of lightning goes in front of you before it starts striking down. You know, if that bolt that goes in front of you touches the opponent, it actually deals another tick of damage, which is great when you realize that warp combos, when they do work, tend to send your opponent flying towards you, so you can actually make that 3rd bolt of lightning, or in this case it would be the 1st bolt of lightning, pulse out and hit them and do that tick of damage. It also behaves perfectly fine after heavy knockdown combos, and even if you throw it out without using a combo before it, if your opponent doesn't have enough dash speed or isn't good enough on their feet, it can actually catch and punish them when you cast it. So you can actually throw this one out randomly. I could recommend it to get your opponent moving. It doesn't have much guard pressure from what I've seen, from what I remember anyway, so if you're going to be throwing this one out, your opponent can block it. It gives a small tell with the purple light going up around them, but I don't think they'd be ready for it from a distance. So if you wanted to be that guy who kind of camps out in the background and say a 2v2 or 3v3, just dropping bolts of lightning on your opponent, you can definitely do that, and it does pretty good damage. I like the way it hits. It's pretty much a guaranteed if one lightning bolt hits, the second one after it's gonna hit. So hey, that is really cool. I like the visual for it and everything. I think it's great. You know what? I might be throwing this on a character for a certain series. Coming back to the channel. Hey, Pop, you gotta understand. You gotta. Divinity Unleash is classified as a power-up, and it is, but we'll try to look at it from the most obvious angle first. When you trigger the skill for the first time and charge a little over half of a bar of ki at least, you'll trigger the buff of the skill, which sharply raises how much ki you'll gain from all actions and innate ki recovery on things like Super Souls. If I'm not mistaken, I was testing out yesterday, it looked a little bit weird, but you can't really tell with stuff like this. It's like, you gotta do what you gotta do. With the buff active, you gain bars of ki much quicker from being hit, landing attacks, step manual vanishing, etc, etc. This thing is dangerous and fairly easy to abuse, to be honest with you. And you can also imagine throwing this thing on an Earthling or something that has like automatic ki recovery, and like putting on the Super Soul, getting beat up makes me angry. You know, like you just getting ki back, and the ki coming back is kinda significant, Pop. The homie Limbo mentioned trying it with the newly nerfed which sounds hilarious, but of course it's something for you to think about. In a practical scenario, you use the skill briefly after a knockback or a heavy knockdown to charge at least a half of a bar of ki, whatever necessary to get the bonus ki recovery. If you get the buff active and then charge up again, you'll actually notice that the ki recovery rate is much higher than it was before using the buff. I think it's pretty interesting as a skill to play with, and I was kind of bummed that it didn't work with the ki draining grapple attack. I was in there like, I thought I was on to some guys. I was hyped, you gotta understand. I was sitting there like, yes, this is in the manual. I'm gonna have the most broken OP. Nah, it didn't work, Pop. It didn't work. It didn't work, you know. But it's interesting for sure. And I'd probably say see what you can pull off with something like this, man. It's probably, what if you put something like this and like maybe maximum charge on a moveset together? I guess for PvE, right? Or like in PvP, you would do like this maximum charge and say Mighty Explosive Wave, because that's probably like the only skill you probably want. You probably do Mighty Explosive Wave with something like this and just keep on doing heavy knockdowns to like use the maximum charge to get the key back. Yeah, this is bullshit. Or picture this: you use this skill at the beginning of the match to get the bonus key recovery, and you have Aura Slide and maybe Punisher Drive or something like that. And like in the first 3 seconds of the fight, you get punched in your face. Like you have enough to use Aura Slide, and like, oh man, this is this might get nerfed for a competitive standpoint. It might get bodied, guys. Use it while you can. Divine Wrath Purification is an ultimate attack that probably has one of the fastest ways to be executed, or it is the fastest of its like damage league, I would say. As an ultimate attack, it deals great damage and is probably the safest and easiest to combo into after a stamina break, as with most ultimates, but you should know that it's quick enough to be used after heavy knockdowns as well. In actuality, I think it is a little bit faster than Supernova Cooler, at least like visually. I feel like it's very quick. It's dangerous, guys. Like this move is significantly a threat. It's fairly powerful. You know, it's fairly powerful as well. So it's gonna be doing I think on Poton it was doing at least 9,000 damage with no investment. So you gotta assume like on a character who has been spec'd for Key Blast super damage, like 125 in there, and then like a Super Soul that boosts the damage by 20% or something like that. It's gonna be doing a lot of damage in PvP, but it's probably, you know, it sounds pretty nice for grinding or like, you know, getting TP medals or something like that, because it's a super that goes a little bit faster than Supernova Cooler, so that's the thing. The skill generally keeps you in place doing the launch pose after throwing it, leaving you wide open to be punished if you don't end up hitting your opponent. That should be enough to let you know that you gotta be sure to throw this thing when it's safe to do so, because the damage it does is actually very impressive without any investment, especially for a 3-bar super. And I honestly think once you throw something like this for just those 3 bars, you realize that you're kinda onto something. This thing fires out insanely fast when it's ready, and it's crazy difficult to dodge in close ranges when its hitbox comes into play. It's like, it just immediately, and you're gone. Like, it's ridiculous. Try it out if you haven't yet, and remember to be practical. Either go for a heavy knockdown or eliminate your chance of error by doing it during a stamina break and kind of angling yourself to throw it at your target and not look goofy when you miss. With all of that out of the way, the only thing left to do is to test the skills out in combat. This is a preliminary overview of the skills, so if you come across any other neat discoveries, like I said earlier, let us know in the comment section below. The rest of the footage here is against Super Saiyan Blue Goku, testing the skills out in the combat in sort of a freestyle scenario. But if you'd like to see information I may not have verbally stated in the video, watch the clips in this video again and check out the help text that Jim has left in the bottom right corner. That usually leaves in all of these videos so you guys can get like a visual idea of how things behave, or exactly what it is you guys are looking at on the screen when it's like, what the hell is going on here? If you haven't though, check out the other videos we have on the channel where we covered combo references and tips for all available cast characters on the roster, stamina break combos, general tips to get you guys better at fighting games in Dragonball Xenoverse 2, the Adventures of Aipom series, which might be making a return pretty soon, a Legacy of Goku 2 playthrough, skits, and of course more mentor and iconic analysis videos much like this one, and even more content being added to the channel in the coming weeks. If you missed the free DLC skill analysis, check them out either on the end screen of this video or in the recommended tab. This is the last DLC covered by the season pass, so I guess that's it, guys. If any new skills get dropped by any miracles, I'll probably get around to covering them in a format like this, but I don't plan on doing any more skill analysis videos after this one, or many more, I should say. Like, maybe I'll give the generic skills a look or something, or like skill analysis videos on like a smaller scale, but we'll probably be seeing that in due time. They probably won't be as like time consuming as these ones, you know. Like maybe we'll cover a bunch of, you know, Key Blast ones, or, you know, generic, you know, Strike Super. I don't know. We'll see, guys, all in due time. But I'll be seeing you guys in the very next video. Take care of yourself.
It's not a game, I'm not a role.